I grew up down the road about 20 miles to the west, on the shore of Lake Erie in what are called the Springfields. There's only 3 of them. So there's no south of Springfield, but there's north, west, and east. And the origination of our steelhead fishing started in Elk Creek, basically, and Crooked Creek. And Jim Simonella is here somewhere. He's got a much deeper history of the origins of things, but primarily our fish came from holdovers from the trout stocking that they did for the first day of trout. And you couldn't fish, the season would close until the first day of trout season, which is always the second Saturday in April. Well, those of you that know about trout habits, they start migrating well before then. So the fish were in the systems in February, March, and the first 2 weeks of April you couldn't fish. So what I did was to go over the border into Ohio, where you're allowed to fish all year round, and start fishing for them on Turkey Creek, which is a small little tributary, and on Cognac Creek and Ashtabula. And I had 4 older brothers. The eldest was 15 years older than me. And so they were driving by the time I could walk a little bit, and I tagged along and did an awful lot of fishing. So I watched this fishery go from an infancy. Now, there was also some natural reproduction back then in Trout Run and Godfrey Run and a handful of other places, but not enough to make it significant to be a fishery. Someone, and I think it was Bob Hetz that owns the nurseries, the tree nurseries, stocked fish at some point in time because all of a sudden there was an explosion of fish in the rivers coming in late fall, not early fall like we have now, and there were thousands of them and nobody fishing. My 1984, the Fish Commission opened up trout fishing statewide to fish all year round. And so you could go fishing. So I would come back up. I live in Pittsburgh. I moved to Pittsburgh after college to deer hunt with my brothers. And I would go fishing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And my one brother would bitch at me. He'd say, you got to go get in your tree stand and you got to go scout. And I would say, I've been in that tree since I could hunt. Why do I need to do that? I'm going fishing. And I want you to envision that if there was nobody fishing and there's thousands of fish, how many you could actually catch? And it was mind-boggling. So my path of fly tying started about the age of 16 or 17. And when I got in college, my parents had died when I was 14 years old. I put myself through school. And fly tying material was either beer money or fly tying material. You had to make a big decision of what you were going to do. And the problem with a glow bug is that in order to tie a glow bug, which was the predominant fly at the time, is you had to cut 3 lengths about that long of your yolk. So an egg is made up of a yolk and albumin, just like a chicken egg. The blood is from my name that my friends started calling a blood's dot when I showed him the fly, and has carried out into anything with a dot in it as a blood dot, and that's not what it is, okay, just to set the record straight. But to tie this fly, to tie a glow bug, you need 3 lengths about that long, and then your corresponding, whatever you're gonna make the yolk color, so there's 4. And you tie a fly, well, you would eat up a package of the material really fast. And what I will tell you that there are days that I lose 20 to 30 flies. Because if you're not on the bottom, you're not going to catch fish at the rate that you should catch them. So you got to tie fast and it needs to be cheap. So I started experimenting with the material, and when I was looking at eggs, and I've studied them quite extensively, actually if you take your brochure and you open it up, we'll talk it through for a second. What I did on page 1 was just a little kind of a photo essay of the process of eggs. Oops, sorry about that. And what they look like. various times and what the colors are. The picture with the blown up eggs here at the top is what I'm imitating. And you notice the translucency in the fly and then the embedded yolk. The embedded yolk can be seen by the fish from any angle that they would see it. So if the fly's coming above them, they can see the yolk. If it's below them, they can see it in any side, in any direction. Glow bugs are great flies, and they have good application in certain situations, but like a lot of things in fishing, there's a pro and a con. You're giving something up to gain something. With this fly, I'm getting the translucency, and I'm pretty confident that that translucency in certain conditions is the difference between catching fish and not, because when you're transitioning from colored stained water, when there's an absence of light, everything is black, and so they can't see it. But as it starts to clear out, there's a window where the translucency comes through the fly. They can see it in silhouette, and they're eating it. When my buddy standing beside me, who's a really good stick, isn't catching fish because he has a glow bug on and he can't see the glow bug because it blocks all the light. I think if you deploy the principles of physics, that people would agree with that. So a trout egg is 5.2 millimeters in diameter, and that's about a size 16 if you tie it on the proper size hook. Now, I tie them all the way up to 10, and we can talk about that. But in this brochure, what you can't see off to the edge, which is in this corner, is these eggs are in the water, and these eggs here are dry on a rock. And we picked the hen up, the eggs fell out, took a photograph, put her back, grabbed the camera, took the picture. So if you notice, these ones here take on a sheen. And if I could connect up my slide deck, I could show that to you, which is different than the eggs here. So one of the things that I see fly tyers do is they'll capture eggs out of a hen, and they look at them, and they take it home, and they try to imitate it. You actually need to put it in the water to see what it does and what it looks like. So the other thing is, if you use the process of imitation, which is size, color, silhouette, and then behavior, and you think that that's what's going to catch a fish, and often it is, okay, not always, then you want to build it 5.2 millimeters, you want to make it round. So as you're looking at these again, just notice that they're all pretty much round. They're not long and elliptical. And when you go online and look at, and I'm going to pick on a fly company right now, the Y2K has the blood dot on line, and it looks like a maggot to me with a red spot on top, like it has a red saddle or something. So they are not imitating the roundness of the fly. So why don't we go ahead and start tying? What I recommend is a 2 or 3X wire, heavy wire hook, scud hook or egg hook. And what you do is, so I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but the proper way to put a hook in a regal vise is to set it back in to that depth. And never put it out here on the end, because when you do, it's going to spit out like a pumpkin seed. And I did a lot of marketing work for the guys at Regal, so I know that. Now the other side is I came back, that sometimes you're going to lose 20 to 30 flies. If you're buying them, that's real expensive. If you are tying them, it's affordable, okay? And if you're not prepared to sacrifice a fly, then you're not going to hook as many fish as the guy standing beside you. So because I had to tie so many flies, I actually had 3 grown adults now, but 3 kids that fly fished with me, a brother, a couple of buddies, that every time I got out of the car would say, yeah, I forgot flies, do you have any flies? So when I tied, I had to tie a lot of flies. And quickly, and I traveled a lot all over the world, and so I don't tie anything that is not quick. And if there's a fly pattern that takes more than 3 to 5 minutes that I think catches flies, I buy it. I buy and I tie. And so these, when I tie, I'm not trying to catch you as fishermen, I'm trying to catch fish. So I don't want to say sloppy, I'm just quick, okay? So what I've discovered that helps me tie very quickly is to use Danville 210 denier flat waxed thread. And why is that? Because when I started on the hook to come around, and I pull, and I'm putting a lot of force on that right there like that, it flattens out and ties it down. So I'll cover the shank of the hook, and I'll come back down the bend just a little bit more to camouflage it. And then I come back and I stop it right over the barb, okay, like so. And then I'll clip it. Don't worry about that little piece of fuzz hanging off on the back, because that doesn't matter to the fish. So then when I cut my material, and I'm using egg as my albumen, but you can use other colors. If you go study eggs somewhere else, they could have a much different color to them, okay? And I clip it. Now, a little trick that I've learned is I'm peeling this, and what I want to accomplish is to fill the space that the egg would fill with as little material as I possibly can. If I try to pull this on the edge right here to pull some off, often it'll catch and tear down there. But if you do what I call halve it, so you take it and pull it in 2. So everybody go ahead and do that. Pull it right in 2. Lay the one in your left hand down and take it again and pull it down the middle. It doesn't tear, okay? And if you don't do that, you're gonna burn a lot of time. Now, the trick is to get you have to play around with it. There's different diameters in this sometimes. You have to play around with the amount of material that you want for the size of the fly that you have. And I'm gonna stop. So I've taken the one section and I've divided it into 3. This is a size 14 hook. Okay. Now, if I come back behind and I start tying in back here, I'm going to end up with an elongated fly. Okay, it's going to be shaped kind of like a maggot. Now, they'll still eat it, but maybe not at the same rate. Okay. So what I do is, the pinch and snap method. So I put the thread in there and I pull. Boom. And now if you can see how much pressure I'm putting on it, and one more wrap, and I can let go. So I'm not sitting there going like this, building it up. What you want to do is build a bubble. So that bubble is going to look like this. That shows up, Yep. Again, one wrap, and then another wrap. So also part of the trick now, if you're there, is to take and push the yarn back over it, and you want to flare it almost like a turkey fanning its tail. Does that make sense to everybody? So I've got it on there, and I push it like that. The same thing with another wrap. And believe it or not, this took me a couple years to think of all of this and make it quick. Okay. So then, now this color is called Apricot Supreme, and when you're looking at the dots here, you're gonna see the yolk is very, very orange. But when you put it in the water, in my slide presentation, this picture's blown up, you can see that the orange turns apricot if it has an albumin. So if you're looking at these eggs here, I blew that up from these eggs that are right there. And there's no yolk in that egg, and it's real yellow or orange. This has a yolk, and it's got kind of a mottled orange to it. This one is kind of washed out, and this one's washed out with a very distinct yolk. And that's what I'm trying to imitate. So now what I do is I take my yolk color, and I do the same thing. I split it, put that down. And by the way, I'll get 3 dozen flies out of this amount of material. And you gotta kind of play and figure out, your first fly might not be good as you're doing it, and then you'll look at it the next time you strip it, you'll strip it right. Now, when I lay it on here, I leave a little bit hanging over. You can see that. Okay, and 2 wraps, that's it. So this is hanging out here, and I have this here. Then I push this back and fan it just like that turkey tail that I'm talking about. Make another wrap, come in front, make a wrap. I like the whip finish rather than half hitch, just when I'm actually production tying, I'm much faster. And I do 6 turns. Okay, now you can get down and clip the thread really close, but what I do to balance the fly is I cut it on an angle, and I cut the thread and the tag end of my material all at the same time. Then I come in here and I pull up, and I lift, push down a little bit inside of it, because that makes it embed inside of it. Now, because they said it's round, you then make it round by pushing it together. And that's the fly. Okay? Now, here's the magic of the fly. When it's wet. Real simple, okay? Real simple. Anybody can tie this fly. And so I've been around a long time. I know lots of really good fly tyers, and people give me stuff, and they give me fly rods and reels and whatever. And there's certain things I keep running back to, and people will say, well, your fly box only has blood dots and white zonkers. And my response is, if somebody's catching more fish than me, then I'm gonna do what they do, okay, because I'm not stupid. But if they're not catching more fish than me, I'm gonna do what I do, and this is what I do. And it catches a lot of fish. Now, you can tie this up to 10s, you can even go bigger. Something, I want to tie another fly here, just real quick, and explain it. Because, did everybody get their fly tied? No? I've been doing this a long time, and one of the principles of science is observation. And when you're observing things, and something happens, well, you can't just say, oh, this is what it is. You have to do it 50, 100 times, and then draw the conclusion. And so Malcolm Gladwell, you know, in one of his books, he wrote about the rule of 10,000 hours. I have 10,000 hours walking in Jim Simonella's boot tracks. So I put a lot of time in, and one of the things that I have observed is that in certain water conditions, which is really kind of blown out and you shouldn't technically be fishing, is this color, for some reason, turns on sooner than others. So I don't even tie a dot in this. I just tied in 2 grafts, come forward. Now I'm going to tell you, you can tie a lot of flies while you're watching a football game. You're not going to tie any flies if you're watching hockey. Because you're watching hockey.
No truer words have been said.
Okay, and then with this, I mean, you can see, and when I'm actually going fast, I'm a little slow now, but I love this color in muddy water. So I'm done. A couple minutes, maybe, you know. And again, when I get it all laid out, I'm just going through it, and I can tie probably 18 to 24 in an hour. This fly. Now I do chartreuse too. I used to take that hook. That's the fly, and I'm going to say it's really more the drift. I mean, the fly's important, don't get me wrong, but it's really more the drift. If you can make a good drift over these fish, they're not the smartest fish in the world. Any questions?
You ever break them?
I don't. Now, I know really good fishermen that do, they'll put a bead in it, okay? I want the fly to ride up a little bit. I put all my weight into my split shot. In fact, if there's any one variable that I change first and the most, it's my weight. And I use removable split shot, okay, with a slot on it. Now I had somebody say, well, that snags up more than a round split shot with, you know, with nothing on it. And it's like, what are you smoking, dude? Because I've done both in whatever, and even if it is, it's so insignificantly different that it doesn't matter. And most of the time, these conditions are a little bit weird. You don't have enough weight on it. You need to get it down and slow it down. And so I'm about, I don't know, a foot. So I'll vary it once in a while a little bit. And then my second fly is this far away. So when you're looking at my rig, I have the white zonker on the bottom, and I have the egg fly closest to the top of my rod. And somebody said, why do you do that? And I said, well, have you ever seen an egg chase a minnow? You haven't, but you've seen a minnow chase an egg. So when you swing through, sometimes that looks natural. It's like the minnow's going after the egg. So the white death, white zonker, obviously I didn't invent, okay? I talked to John Randolph, who used to be the editor of Fly Fisherman magazine. He knows who did. And I said, well, write it down and send it to me so I can keep it in my mind. But it's the recipe of the way I tie it and why I tie it that's actually, I think, made it as successful as it is. So I don't use real expensive hooks. These are what I'm using. These are mustads. But it needs to just be a 2X long. And again, a heavy wire, because if it's not, you're going to straighten the fish out. So now there's a few tricks in this fly. First of all, you need to have a little bit of mylar, which I have. And I don't cut my mylar into strips, okay? Meaning I don't sit there and cut up a bunch of little ones. I cut a long piece of it and I leave it long, okay? And then This isn't the right black thread, but for time's sake, I'll just keep this. So for speed, I use 2 bobbins.
Material for that? Do you pay enough material for that?
Thank you. Yeah.
One of the problems with the rabbit that you buy from a fly shop is often it's just way too thick. And if you, what I'm doing, let me back up, why I'm doing this, why does a white zonker work? Why my brain, it's because the steelhead have been out in Lake Erie feeding on bait fish for a couple of years, 2 or 3 or 4 years. And there's billions of bait fish out there. And every day there's natural mortality. So what is an orange scud? Can anyone tell me what an orange scud is? It's not, well, it's a dead one. So when it dies, it turns orange. And the fish are still eating it because it's biomass. And so you have bait out in that lake out there that dies every day because it's part of life. And when they die, a process of autolysis kicks in, which is basically the body's enzymes breaking it down, creates gas, they bloat, they turn white, their eye stays black, they belly up, and they start to float up through the water column. And if you're out there as a fish, you're just coming along, oh, there's a dead one, there's a dead one, there's a dead one, eat it. Now, I'm not out there to see that, so I can't scientifically prove it. But I did watch it over on 18 Mile at Olcott, where they were coming out of the bottom of the dam in March. And a 12-pound steelhead came up and ate one like right there out of the surface. And I'm watching that, and I looked out, there's another minnow kind of over past the middle, and it came down, another fish came up and ate it. And I didn't have any, so I went up to the car, dug around, I found some white zonkers, went down. When I tell you, it was like turning on the light switch. I put on a clinic. And so the fly matters. Okay, so the first thing we do is, I hope this doesn't break, is you tie in your black thread. I'm sorry, your orange thread. Tie in your orange thread in the back. And again, stop it right at the bend. Make sure it's down so it doesn't slip. Okay, you can see I'm really pulling on that. Again, I use this Danville for both flies. I really like it. At that point, you take your Mylar, and rather than grab a hold of that and just pull that like that, okay? And you just take as much out as you possibly can. And then you push it on over this. So, get it right here, make a couple wraps around. Okay. Then you can come up here with your scissors, push it up against the hook, and cut. Okay. Take your black thread, pull back a little bit on this with this finger. I just get it and pull it back a little bit, make a wrap around it, and latch it down. And I'm not tying this to sell it to you guys. I'm tying it to catch fish, and I need a lot of them. Okay, and I'll cut this off. And then what do I do with my strip? Okay. Because I've left this long like this, is lay it in here like so. Latch it down and build up a head. And with that heavier material, this is not the right thread that I have in this bobbin. You see, I'm just wasting time right here spinning it around. If it's with this thick Danville stuff, I would be done with this already. But I gotta cover it. And that's good enough for now. Take my bobbin, or my quick finisher, Can't see. So that one's gonna come undone if I don't. And if you break off your thread, you just come back over it. And by the way, the reason that thread broke is I pushed sideways, so I pushed it that way. You can break your fishing line the same way. You can break 80-pound test with hardly any effort if you know what you're doing. Okay, so pull this back, wet your fingers. Now, this piece of rabbit doesn't have a lot of fur in it, but I'm gonna tell you, that's what I actually like it with less fur. Couple turns. Now, the other thing that I do is, so I have two sides of the whip finish, okay? And so I take, and I just hit it, finish it. And then I reach in and leave about 1/4 of an inch out, get under the fibers, click it, and that's the fly. Now, some guys will take and they'll trim the tag up and put a point on it. I don't think the fish give a damn. I mean, this will catch fish all day long. That's the fly. And any questions? Following that tied the fly pattern, gave me recognition for it. But when you look at it, the amount of material behind the bend of the hook is too long. If you have too much material, it's rabbit. You just grab it and pinch it off until you get it to where it looks like the minnow. Unfortunately, I'm out of brochures. I have one I can pass around. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Pass to that. Yep. So take a look at this brochure quickly if you can, so everyone can look at it. And it explains what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So there's a couple of videos online with the new fly fisher where I tied it and they published it, and then I did a couple. I think I did one with Tom Rosenbauer from Orbis the same way. So it's simple. It's really, there's simple fly patterns. Once you learn a pattern, you can tie a lot of them. Like I said, to be successful out there tomorrow, you're gonna need a lot of fly. And if you weight these? No, again, if you weight it, what happens is, have you fished these streams before? They're shale bottom. You know, it'll go right down and hook on the shale and it'll hang out. You want it to ride up a little bit, let your split shot bounce, and there's kind of a ballasting, like refinement to get the sweet spot. And once you know, and each pool is different. So you'll watch, I fish with a lanyard. I've got my split shot and what's called a quick shot. It says change first looking thing you can pinch. And you'll see me changing my weight constantly. Like I'll put on another split, and I carry three sizes. So I'm carrying BB, B, and 3/0. And so, you know, depending on the speed of the water, the depth of the water determines how much weight. The other variable that I'll change before I change my fly is my indicator. I fish my indicator higher up the system than most people do. Where I learned that technique was with a guy in Montana by the name of Mike Krebs on the Bighorn River. And the Bighorn River has got a lot of energy in the water. I mean, it's deep and it's fast. And being an Eastern fisherman, when I first did it in 1985-ish, somewhere around there, it's like the water was intimidating. And then he showed me the technique of how they do it to catch these fish in deep, fast water. And I brought that back with me when I came back here in Pennsylvania and deployed it against a lot of the fishing. Because back 40 years ago, indicators were taboo for fly fishing. But they were. Question. Well, that's a good question. My I was fishing with a professional football player by the name of Gary Anderson when he kicked for the Steelers, and his day off was on Tuesday, and my youngest son was 8. He had an in-service day, and we all decided to go fishing. So we're over on Elk Creek, and Gary's downstream from me, and he said, "Hey Jeff, what are you catching them on?" And I go, "A white zonker." And my son kicked me in the shin, and he goes, "Dad, you can't tell the world what you're catching your fish on." And I kind of looked at him, and I said, "Well, what do you suggest?" He said, "We need a code word." And I said, "Well, like what?" He said, "Well, like it's white and it's deadly. Let's call it white death." So that's how we started calling it. Well, like anything, you have your group of friends, and from there, their friends, and then their friends, and then their friends, and all of a sudden the whole world knew. You know, I'm standing there one day, and the guy said, "White death really works," and it's like, yeah, it does, doesn't it? So now there's another question: why the orange in the back of the fly? So it's you can't see it in this, but the orange thread. And again, here's the truth. Everybody wants a scientific reason, but I was with Gary Anderson and a couple other guys in February. We're fishing the Salmon River. We're all tying flies like crazy, and we ran out of black thread. We only had 2 spools left. So we took the orange thread to tie in the back so that we can continue tying flies from the front. And it worked like crazy, and we just left it in. It's kind of a hot spot, and I don't know, it catches a lot of fish, so that's why.
How long is the drop?
How long is the dropper? Long. So it's been my observation, if you put your dropper close on Steelhead, they don't like it anywhere near as much as they like it long. They like it at least 2 feet, maybe 3 feet. And I mean, I can stand there with you and prove it. When there's a lot of fishing, tomorrow might be a banner day. The water, I think, is going to work out for us. We haven't had the run of fish that we normally get. When we do get that run of fish, I mean, it can be stupid actually how many fish you can catch. And we might be right on the prime of that. I'm crossing my fingers. And then when, in that condition, that's where you take and like shorten it and prove it to yourself. Okay, it's short. I'm not getting as many hits. I lengthen it, bam, bam, bam. And you know, again, you have to do something hundreds of times, if not more, to actually prove it. But I'm very convinced, and so are my friends and a lot of other people. So